look at chapter 2 of part of our PDF file, and it's titled Tools and Equipment, Marking Out and Measuring. The objectives: to recognize and be able to select the correct tools and equipment when marking out and measuring, to understand the tools, uses, the advantages and disadvantages. Marking out and measuring is a critical part of manufacturing and is usually subject to a number of quality control checks. If components are marked out and measured wrongly before being cut out, there is no chance of them fitting together when they are assembled. Always take marking out measurement from a datum, as is indicated in figure 2.1. So we have 2.1, datum A and datum B. A datum edge is a flat face or a straight edge from which all measurements are taken. This prevents cumulative errors being made. Cumulative errors mean errors that are piling up from previous errors. If you are using timber, choose the face side carefully before making it with a small making it with a small symbol for identification purposes. Let me read that again. If you are using timber, choose the face side carefully before marking it with a small symbol for identification purposes, as shown in figure 2.2. So this face side. Then select a face edge that is at right angles to the face side. Take all your measurement from this side and or edge. Marking out and measuring tools. These are the tools used for marking out and measuring that you need to know about. Rules, squares, gauges, scribers, punches, templates, and micrometers. Rules. There are two basic types of rule: the steel rule and the steel tape. Both start at 0 and have millimeter graduations. So you have the steel rule. It's used for measuring up to 300 millimeters in length, that's 1 foot. Advantage: it's a rigid form, which means it will not bend and flex. The disadvantage: the ends can get worn, so that the measurements are not accurate after it is worn. So this is really what we know as the ruler. It's a steel rule. It's made of steel. Then you have the measuring tape. Steel measuring tape is for making longer measurements up to 5 meters, but in some cases more than that as well. It's longer, so it is more versatile. That's the advantage. Disadvantage: it can become twisted and break. The ends can break off, making them useless. Then you have the squares. There are a number of squares: the tri-square, the meter square, the engineer square. Both the tri-square and engineer square are used to mark lines at 90 degrees to an edge. A tri-square is used on timber and an engineer square is used on metals. Both can be used for marking out plastics. You can also use the tri-square and the engineer square to check that a cut or an edge has been made at right angles to another. Hold the top part of the square tightly against the edge so that you have just cut. So you have this top and the metal part. The tri-square, the marking out or checking right angles on wood or plastic. You hold this top part of the square tightly against the edge you have just cut. If you can see light between the two edges, then a square is not cut. So the wooden angle is the stock. You hold it against the part that you have just cut. Here you have an example here. So a metric square is used for marking out 45 or 135 degree angles on wood and plastic. Take great care when using any form of square for marking out or checking, and ensure that it is being held firmly and tightly against the surface or edge of the material. Stretch activity. A tri-square will usually have a brass face on this inside of the stock. Describe why there is a brass face on the stock rather than it being left as wood. So you have a strip of brass metal, or a strip of brass on the face. Well, you can think of the reason. Which one is easier to wear? Which one is tougher and harder to wear? You have the engineer square for marking out or checking right angles on metal or plastic. So the tri-square is on wood or plastic, engineer square on metal or plastic. And you have the metric square for checking 45 or 135 degrees. And we have gauges. We will look at gauges in a separate video.